When they see that go down on the streets of Los Angeles, and as this now appears to be spreading to other parts of the country, you're going to lose the argument more.
Anna is at it again. Hello, my name is Liz Ashley and welcome to my channel. We're going to talk about Francesca calling out Anna Kasparian. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So Anna responded to the protest in LA. Anna lives in LA. So does Francesca. And so Francesca responded to what she was saying. Now, Anna, of course, has gone down the conservative lane now. She has a lot of right-wing views and and her coverage sounds a lot like mainstream media's coverage. So Francesca called her out, and I love Francesca for it. I love Francesca. I think she's amazing. She's not afraid to call anybody out. She's not afraid to say how she feels, I love her. I think she's amazing. Okay, so this is what she said. LOL, like clockwork, and even worse than I imagined, the Karen at the home of the progressives does it again. I love it. I love it. First of all, the allegation that violent criminals were arrested in LA raids is purely based on ICE itself and no real reporting. So is TYT now taking what ICE says at face value? Also, the centrists don't ruin protests. The centrists don't ruin protest line and the Republican 2020 rewriting of history as if cops didn't instigate the violence against BLM. And the lie that demonstrating will lead to more detentions when they prevented ICE arrests on Saturday. Just stand back and watch your community get torn apart so you can win the moral argument. Truly a new low. I watched that video. I had to watch it in 2 times speed because I was getting very upset. Francesca put a clip and she put it with pundits like these.
If the response to what Trump is doing is rioting in the streets, flying foreign flags, burning the American flag, I just want people to think this through. How exactly do you get the American people on your side when it comes to immigration policy? See, rather than rioting, I would think strategically about how to use all the videos that exist of mothers being arrested before they can even pick their kids up from school. They're getting arrested and deported. Their kids are in school. They're begging to at least be able to talk to their kids before being detained, but they won't let that happen. Those videos are heartbreaking. You lose the argument when you start engaging in violence and when you destroy cities, when you light things on fire. You lose the argument.
And then she posted another clip and said, when the anti-corporate media sounds pretty corporate.
And we do. We have millions of people with undocumented status in the United States, some of whom are actually committing crimes. I know lefties want to pretend like that doesn't exist. It does exist. So I have no problem with ICE targeting those individuals. And to be sure, some of the people that got arrested by ICE in Los Angeles over this weekend had been convicted of some pretty heinous crimes, but not all of them.
Which I think is funny because TYT, that's been their whole thing for such a long time now, is like, oh, we're not corporate media, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, yeah, I mean, you are though. Like, you got money from a billionaire, you got money from Polymarket. What makes you so different? What makes TYT so different? You're not they are corporate media, essentially. They're courting right-wingers. Apparently, Jank had a horrible take on this, but I haven't seen that. I haven't looked into that. I just know that like someone showed it to Hassan the other day and he was like, please don't show me this. Like, don't show me this. Listen, Thanksgiving's gonna be real interesting this year. Let's just say. I definitely don't understand TYT's thought process in all of this. I guess, yeah, they just want to get money from people like Polymarket. That inevitably is going to change how they cover things. But Anna wants to sit here and take ICE's word for it. So that's what Francesca was saying. So Anna, in her report on this, she was talking about how like ICE did arrest some criminals and she has no sympathy for them and blah, blah, blah. Now, is there any evidence for this? Is there anything, is there any proof that they had, that they were criminals? No, it's just what ICE saying, and it's up on their website. And Alicia Miller, I watched her video the other day, and actually 2 of the people that were on that website were already arrested and already in jail. And so they were already lying about 2 of the people they said that they apprehended. He did that with the whole gang thing in where was it, like Ohio? That's exactly what she did. And she stoked that fear, she stoked that fire. She's perpetuating this lie that there are all these criminals and that they are going after criminals and blah blah blah, when they're not. They went to a elementary school the other day and they lied to the elementary school and said that ICE did. They lied to the elementary school, said that their guardians were approved of them taking these kids out of class, and the elementary school was like, no. No, and they lied. They did not have the approval for those kids' guardians. They went to an elementary school. They went to an elementary school graduation. They got a kid, a high schooler. He couldn't graduate. Like, they're going to workplaces. They're going to farms now. Do you think that people for the World Cup or the Olympics are gonna want to come here? But like, American citizens commit far more crime than immigrants do, especially undocumented immigrants, because they're worried. They don't want to get deported. And so, like, to continue to try to be like wishy-washy on this, disgusting. And that's what Anna's doing. Another thing that Anna and every other person on mainstream media, they want to sit here and they want to be like, optics. Oh my God, the optics. Oh, look at the optics. And I hate that. It drives me insane. I get really frustrated with that because it doesn't matter what any protester does. Everyone has an issue with it.
It all kind of began on Friday. Things started to escalate on Friday night, although on Friday night, for the most part, with a few exceptions, things were under control. However, these riots have grown. And last night was probably the worst of it. This continues to grow. I wouldn't be surprised if it does continue to get worse.
Hey, it's Lou Wilson. I'm down here at the heart of the LA protests. To my right, we got about 50 to 60 protesters all out here chanting and singing together, holding up signs, enjoying the honks of drivers by. Incredibly calm, incredibly peaceful, just people together exercising their First Amendment right and their desire for justice. To my left, we have an extreme display of military force. We have members of the National Guard and the LAPD who are armed and ready to dispense protesters, be it with rubber bullets or tear gas, a number of military vehicles, and soon 700 Marines. Though I'll tell you, the general vibe I get from them is boredom and a sense of what are we doing here? And then, of course, we've also got about 10, 15 news outlets all here not filming anything and instead running these same kind of 3 images of burning Waymos from this weekend.
I went to like a training or a meeting or something, and they were saying try not to judge people for how they protest or whatever, because you don't know what effect this has on them. And that's something that has stuck with me for a very long time. Like, back during the civil rights movement, they were getting the same pushback. They were doing peaceful protests and they were getting met with violence. They were doing peaceful protests and everyone was telling them, well, if you would just behave a little bit better, then maybe people would want to be a part of your cause. And that's essentially what Anna was saying. That's what a lot of people are saying. And it's very frustrating because it's like, no, you're not a part of this cause. You don't want to be a part of this cause. You're actually on the other side of this cause, but you're trying to gaslight everybody else into thinking that, like, well, maybe if you just acted differently, didn't look that way, what have you, I would have a different opinion. And it's like, no, you're not going to have a different opinion. You just want to feel better about yourself for not standing up. You want to feel better about yourself because you have cognitive dissonance and you can see what's going on. And instead of you doing something about it, instead of you speaking out about it, you decide to disparage everybody else who is, because deep down inside, you feel guilty and you know you're wrong. And so you're trying to sit here and be like, oh, well, if they would just, do this a little bit differently, maybe then I would be a part of it. I would support them. No, this happens in every movement. This happens in every protest. This happens all the time. Everyone always has something to say. Everyone always has a complaint. I think Caroline Kwan, I love her. She summed it up great. I think it's perfect. She said, there is no way to protest against fascism that the fascist powers will deem acceptable. When protest is peaceful, they respond with violence. When protest is not peaceful, they respond with violence. So ultimately, those who are siding with ICE, the cops, and federal government believe that the only correct form of protest is no protest at all. And that's true. And something that Trump recently, he threatened everyone who's going to the No Kings protest on Saturday. I will be there. And he's threatening them, and he's saying, oh, well, you will be met with force. And so for Trump to sit here and to threaten people that are just trying to protest, which is our First Amendment right, I think shows exactly what Caroline was saying, that this is not about the optics. It's about they don't want you to protest at all. And that is the truth. And so to completely go on about optics and this and that is ridiculous, because it's not about that. It's about our First Amendment being squashed. They've been shooting rubber bullets at purposely at reporters. They shot one at a lawyer. And so they are meeting people who are not being violent at all with violence. So where's the optics for that? What about the optics for that? Does no one want to talk about those optics? And someone who's been a part of this is actually Bernie. He came out, and I think he had a better statement more recently, but I just want to talk about this because this is something that gets under my skin all the time. Bernie Sanders said Dr. King defeated racist government officials and ended segregation through disciplined, nonviolent resistance. He said defeating Trump and oligarchy and authoritarianism requires the same level of discipline. Violent protests are counterproductive and play right into Trump's playbook. I just listen, a lot of these protests are not violent. You see people, on live, you see people going there and they're dancing, and it's just something I want to talk about real quick is something that bothers me a lot. It's invoking Martin Luther King Jr.'s name to basically be against protesters or be against things. The right wing does that all the time and act like he was someone that everyone always agreed with. He was assassinated. He was blackmailed. Back then he was very unpopular. And so he was met with violence consistently. Even though he was peaceful. So I hate when people do that. I hate it. It drives me insane. He said, let me say, as I've always said and always will continue to say, that riots, socially destructive and self-defeating, but in final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. It has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense of our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these reoccurrences of violence and riots over and over again. That's what Martin Luther King said. There's a reason that we don't get taught all of the details of the civil rights movement in school. There's a reason for that. Because if you did, then I think a lot of people would have a much different understanding of this moment. And I think a lot of people would have a much different understanding of history and how we got to where we are today. I hate that Bernie used Martin Luther King. I think Bernice King said something back, and it was that quote. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm going to the protest on Saturday. And I'm not going to let Trump scare me, and I'm not going to let him silence me. This is getting increasingly bad, and I think the more we try to normalize this, the worse it's going to get. They're deploying, I think, even more National Guard to New York, Chicago. There's been protests in New York and Chicago. There was 5 different cities that they're sending them to. This is what this is. I think focusing on optics and not focusing on the authoritarianism that's happening is an issue. And I think normalizing this is an issue. And I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. But yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, all right. Stay safe and comment, like, subscribe, all the things. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.